Hi, I'm Debbie Moraes. Welcome again to Legal Matters. This is the program that's been designed to address the critical, sometimes contentious issues that are facing businesses and consumers today. It's legal information, practical solutions, and straight talk about a wide variety of topics that will affect your home and your business life. We've talked about finance and family law, Social Security. Today, something more timely. It's gift-giving time, and what do you buy for the person who has everything? Or maybe you feel that you don't have the time to go shopping, or you don't know someone's taste. Gift certificates, gift cards have become such a popular item. Today, we're going to address the topic that's more aligned with buyer beware. While there's consumer laws that have certainly changed, there are certainly things that we need to be aware of. And once again, or as we say, as always, we welcome from Bazar, Grasso law firm in East Providence, Jackie Grasso to my right, and to her right, David Bazar.
Deb.
Okay, so gift cards. What are the current laws? What are your rights?
Well, they've changed over the last several years. It used to be the gift cards had an expiration date and they would load transaction fees on them. Now in Rhode Island, the law changed, I think probably in 2010 or 2011, which mandates that any gift certificate given or gift card cannot have an expiration date. While other states may still put a limit on it, I know in Rhode Island, if any retailer says, well, that expired after a certain amount of time, they're not complying with the law. And then there should not be any fees attached to them as well on the cards.
Right. And then there are some differences between the cards, the almost credit or debit type of gift card you get now, and the old paper gift certificates you used to get. And with those old gift certificates, they didn't have a way of tracking what you spent and what you didn't spend. So if you had a $100 gift certificate and you spent $90, there was no way, really, unless they were going to create a whole new gift certificate, give you a $10 gift certificate, you might have had the option of getting some change back from your dollar.
So are you saying you can't get change back if you have $5 left on the card and you don't want to buy anything more in that store, or $10, or
that would be
on
the
$1?
plastic card, that they would just leave it there, almost like a credit. If it's unused portion, you still have it. It's there.
You could apply it to a future purchase if you kept the card. If you don't use it, you lose it, so to speak, because you're not getting cash back.
And of course, we were talking just a little bit ago that between the plastic and the paper, from the merchant or the retailer's point of view, he actually has a little bit of an edge, maybe an unfair one, maybe not an unfair one, where he can choose to, if you are taking a refund, not give you cash back, but rather reload that card, which keeps you coming back to his store time and time again, which is good for him. Do you see any problem with that?
I don't see any problem with it, because you still have the benefit of the funds available for purchase. It's not like they're taking away from you. Years ago, what would happen is the longer it took for you to use the card, the less it would be valued. So it would lose value over time. That can't happen anymore.
And that's true of any retailer? And that's true of even if you went to the mall and just bought the mall's...
Yeah, they should not lose any value at all, because too many people were complaining about it. I mean, it was the advantage to the retailer. Like David said, if you don't use it, you lose it, and who has the advantage? The retailer.
The retailer gets that money back as breakage from whatever was originally given. But what is interesting, Jackie's 100% right. You used to they have those old prepaid credit cards, and they had that
like
same...
cell phone cards?
Yeah, well, those, and also MasterCard and Visa and so forth. I think maybe even American Express sold prepaid cards. So you would give someone $20 or $50 or $100 Visa card. And if you didn't use those, the money would slowly disappear over time, just a certain percentage each month or whatever period of time they used. And that can't be done with these gift cards anymore. So you give somebody $100, the store now has your $100, and they have the right to expect in return that you'll buy something from them for that $100. So they're not getting the benefit of fees or transactional fees, as Jackie talked about, or some of that money just becoming theirs over time. They just have the right to honor the card and sell you something for the value on the card.
And you say that it varies from state to state, even though there are broader-based, more comprehensive consumer protection laws. Should I worry if I want to buy a gift card from a store that's in another state? Should I go to consumerunion.org and find out what their laws are, just to make sure that someone isn't going to be shortchanged somehow?
I think the first thing the buyer wants to ask the retailer is, can I use this card in other stores in other states? So large retailers like Macy's, JCPenney, or one of those sporting goods stores, you want to make sure that it's good in any state.
Is there any occasion where it wouldn't be? If you bought
There shouldn't be, not in retail chains.
Yes.
Quite frequently you'll get like coupons in the mail, for instance, like Dunkin' Donuts, and they'll say, well, this only applies at this particular store. For that coupon, maybe that's okay, but the same thing with Dunkin' Donuts, it's a national retail chain. There should be no reason why that card should not work in another state.
The reason why some of those local coupons from a Dunkin' Donuts or Honeydew or whatever it might be may be limited to certain stores is because a lot of those stores are franchised, and the franchisees, the people who own the franchise, are not the same at every Dunkin' Donuts on every corner.
And they're probably paying for that particular ad.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they're buying the ad, they want the benefit of what they paid, and perhaps the folks in one of the other stores don't want to have to honor those. So that's why you might see in some of those franchise situations some limitation on stores. But the national chains, the Sears and JCPenney and Kohl's, are not franchise stores, so they should be good in any of their stores.
by and large, so you're saying you would expect that they should honor it if it's a national chain.
Right.
Okay, and when we're talking about what's in the cards, how about the fact that because the economy is terrible, bankruptcy is also in the cards? What happens when you were given as a gift certificate or gift card and you find out that the store is in bankruptcy? Does that mean you must run to that store, cash in right away, or do you really not have to worry? Sometimes it's reorganization, sometimes they're going out of business. What should you do?
Well, I think if it's a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, pretty much it's done. It's
Done.
over. The store is closed. There may be little to no value of the card. But again, you don't know that because perhaps the court's liquidating all the assets and there may be a small value to it. But you're in line with about 20,000 other people.
You're an unsecured creditor,
Exactly.
I would assume.
Yeah, and in a Chapter 11, I can't see any reason why they wouldn't honor it because they still are in bankruptcy. They're just under a plan of reorganization. But look on the internet, ask questions, and you can certainly find out if the card still has value.
And we're going to say the economy is getting better, so
Okay,
we're not,
we're
we're not as
eternal
worried
optimists.
as we might have been 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I know that's true because for a while they were a rapid succession of retailers, big box retailers going out. Well, let's hope that isn't
Right.
the case. What do you see now as potential trouble on the horizon for people who are buying gift cards because they can't think of something else or they just think that's the best alternative? Do you see any problems with gift cards or gift certificates at all?
The only concern I might have, and it's not a major concern, it's just that to me, you give somebody a gift card, those aren't tied to a person by some kind of identification or anything, so if you lose it, I don't see any protection from whoever might find it not being able to go in and use it. So you would treat it like cash, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's no downside other than it's like giving cash in the sense that
is.
it's usable by whoever has it.
Yeah, it is. Like bearer paper.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you sign the back of the
Right.
check, it's cash.
That's exactly right.
I don't know if it's just because of recent changes in the law, but apparently, as there is an app for everything these days, there seems to be online mobile apps or online apps that will let you manage the long string of gift certificates that you have. Is there a way that if you have several that are with, say, Simon's chain stores that are, not stores, but Simon's malls, that you can combine them? Can you combine, I have one that came from Grandma in Chicago and one from Grandpa in Carolina. Once you have those, any problem about managing them and combining them online?
I don't see why there wouldn't be a problem. I mean, the app, I'm sure, is programmed such that
Right.
you can combine. You probably have to put certificate numbers in there, and
And I would assume that these Simon malls, if that's what it is, or whatever big property owner owns a lot of different malls, would have their rules, and you could go and find the rules and determine what you're allowed to do or not do. But if all the money is going into the same pot for the mall owner and it comes out of the same pot, I don't think they'd have a big issue as to where you use those.
What you're saying probably is why they have those apps, just so that you can make sure that the lengthy terms and considerations and limitations are all easily managed.
Yeah.
What about those who know that they can't, as you indicate, get the $5 back or the $10 back, but they don't want what's at that gift certificate store? gift card granny apparently lets you sell them. Is there a problem with you combining or discounting your cards and having them sold? Is there any reason why you can't or shouldn't?
I would be leery of that. I've never
what
heard
way,
of that
Jackie?
website. Well, you want to make sure that it's a legitimate website.
How would you do that?
Well, first you can Google the name.
Gift card granny.
Yeah,
for one
just Google the
example.
name, go onto the Consumer Protection website established by the federal government or your state. You want to make sure that it's legitimate, because if I'm going to turn over my gift card and wait for a check in the mail or wait for PayPal,
Yeah.
if it's too good to be true.
Sometimes it is.
it is.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're talking about $5 on a gift card that you're never going to use, if you do some due diligence,
Yeah.
it's $4 or whatever they're going to give you back that you might not have had otherwise. And if you don't get it, as long as you're careful in what you do, you don't put yourself at great risk. As long as you don't give up any personal information.
And when it's a card, should you worry less about a card? You talk about expiration, how they aren't supposed to have expiration dates now. Apparently maybe there are still some states who do, but is there an abandonment law that says if you haven't done anything with it, we have the right to close the door on it after some point, or is that
Well, that
entirely
used to
illegal?
happen several years ago, used to happen in this area. I'm sure there are other states that still have that abandonment statute, but I'm not aware of it in Rhode Island or
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
and the biggest risk I think you may run is if you don't use it. Companies merge, companies go in and out of business, companies are acquired, and it may be that the legal entity that you bought your gift card from, especially if it's a locally owned store, for example, changes ownership or merges with somebody else. You may lose that only because of the legal rights that are obtained by the new owner, which are we're taking the assets, but we're not assuming the liabilities. And a gift card is a liability. It's a debt owed by that company to you, so to speak. And so that is a risk you run by waiting forever and ever and ever.
And when people buy Groupon and Social Living, whatever those sites are that let you buy something online, or even a gift certificate, should you have to give to the receiver a list of the terms and conditions about when and how and where and why you can use it and when you can't? And
Well, actually, I think that's important, because with Groupon, they have blackout dates. It's just like those little entertainment books that people used to get. So if you're going to buy something, first of all, they only give you a certain amount of time to take advantage of the deal when you
Yes.
are purchasing it. But they do have blackout dates, and they do have expiration dates on those, because that's almost like a coupon more
Right.
than a gift certificate. But so I would treat the Groupon more like a coupon and let the recipient know that there are some limitations to
And
using that.
That's an important distinction. It's not a gift certificate
That's right.
that you bought from the restaurant. It's a coupon that you've bought from a third-party provider. And the terms and conditions that they can put on that are much different than the terms and conditions that can be put on a Rhode Island gift certificate, for example, bought from the store that's selling it.
Yeah.
would it be legal for them to have their expiration dates? Because I do know that I have seen those on some of the I don't remember
Groupons?
whether it was Groupon or Social Living or
Yeah.
one of those roadie deals or Massachusetts
Yeah,
deals.
they can have expiration dates and they can have limitations on the use.
Yeah.
Would you say that for anyone who is participating in those kinds of gift cards as a treasure for the holidays or birthdays or whatever, that those are more likely to have hidden fees? Are they allowed to have abandonment dates? Are they allowed to have inactivity charges? Are they subjected to the same laws as the typical gift card
Well, I
these
think
days?
there's probably an expiration date. The Groupons that I've seen, that I've purchased myself, there's a limit of time that you can use them. So as far as the expiration date, I don't know about the abandonment issues. Well, there would be if you don't use it by the time the
Right.
expiration
I
date
don't
arrives.
think they have those sliding fees
No.
where they go down in value. But the other rules that don't apply to gift cards may apply in terms of end dates, abandonment, not use by certain times.
Do you need to ask, when you go to a store, do you need to ask that clerk what happens if I can't spend every last nickel, or suppose the person who I give it to can't and doesn't want to spend every last nickel? Do you need to get from them with a receipt the printed terms that say we will give you your $5 back or your 99 cents back, or do you need to actually have a physical receipt or some sort of statement of their policy when you pick up that gift certificate?
I get the receipt anyway. I don't know that there's something in small print written on the back of all those receipts, but if you want to get a policy, then yeah, you can ask them for it, ask them to print it out, and you have a right to have that policy. They'll give it to you.
And if their policy is that they'll give you money back, I would keep that, because if they change their policy, you could at least argue, wait a minute, contractually when I bought this, this is our agreement and I have a copy of it.
That sounds like a good caveat or good plan. It does sound that from what you're saying, and based on other times when we've discussed this, things are certainly better and safer for the consumer, so he doesn't have to worry so much about what liability or where he's going to get shortchanged or a fraction of what his original investment is. Would you say that's pretty safe nationwide?
Yeah, the use of those plastic cards was really changed in many ways. The advantages that the consumer in some ways would have with the using gift cards, and of course the change in the law in Rhode Island.
Well, I think that most people would understand that you're not going to get the cash back if you're getting a plastic gift card. They're just going to leave it as a credit on the account. And then it could be there. You do want to find out, I mean, how long do I have to use the credit? They shouldn't give you a limit to that, but as David said, things change. Businesses might be purchased from other entities, or they might close, so it's a risk you have. I think I read somewhere that almost there's a large portion of the population that never actually even use gift certificates, so people are sitting on these gift certificates and never use them at all.
And the retailers just love that.
They love that,
they
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I think, well, this is a pretty safe topic. What about the situation with layaways? I mean, it's close, as it gets closer to the holidays, more people are cashing in and paying off and picking up. What kinds of concerns are there with the structure of a layaway?
Again, that's definitely something you want to know what the store policy is. The store should have their policy in a conspicuous area, so it should be visible to all patrons. So you want to make sure you know what their policy is and how long you have to pay on the layaway, because the stores will at some point contact you and tell you if you don't pay the layaway, the product's going to go back into the store.
Right.
So yeah, knowing what the policy is very important. And it should be clearly visible, and no matter what store. You want to make sure the store has layaway. Some stores don't have layaway. Nowadays, they're starting to utilize it again. It's not something we used to see many years ago, but now you'll see them popping up in all the retail
And it is
stores.
interesting how we've gone through stages where, that was the big thing. And of course, with a layaway, it's a forced savings to make sure that you're paying something weekly or whatever the terms are of the layaway towards the purchase of that item you want to buy. And then, of course, we went away from layaways, and I think probably because of the use of credit cards and the availability of easy credit for people to go in and just pay for something on their credit card and get it right away. We've come back in the last 3 or 4 years, would you say?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, yeah.
And I've been in stores where the sign says, talk to us about our layaway policy, and that's the important thing. What is the policy? Why is there an advantage of using the store's layaway policy and using that payment weekly as opposed to buying it on a credit card? Are there interest savings? Or is it some kind of better way to buy this product for you than to do it in another fashion? If you don't have credit card, there could be.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're going to just pay the purchase price. The store gets the benefit of holding the item while you're paying them, so they don't need interest on it because they haven't shipped the item out their door, and you don't have to worry about extending credit on credit cards.
What is the issue about you wanting to buy, say it's electronics? They might not have it in the store the day that you are placing the down payment on it, the deposit on it, and you have a plan of X payments over 6 weeks or whatever. You decided you wanted to pay for it, pay it off in 4 weeks and pick it up. Must that store have it in? Do I have the right to assume that they have that in stock when I walk in, or do they have the right to say, I'm sorry, you need to wait 2 more weeks because that's what the agreed upon date is? Are those things issues that the consumer needs to be aware of?
Well, I think if you're buying something on a layaway, you're going to expect that it's going to be in the store.
From the time you
put the
deposit?
Yeah. Yeah. If it's something they have to order, they may not have it in stock, they need to tell you this is when it's going to arrive. If you then go there the following week and say, no, I want it now, well, that's unreasonable on the part of the consumer because the retailer has advised you that it hadn't arrived at that point.
And as a
You're at
consumer,
that mercy to some point.
that's correct. And you're at the mercy of whatever the policy is, the layaway policy, when you entered into it. So the store has certain expectations that are in their layaway policy for the consumer. The consumer should absolutely have the right to have some expectations of the store, and that should be in the policy too. So whether it's they have to deliver the item on a certain date and be able to do that, or have the item put away for you literally and physically, that should be in that policy.
If they don't, then you ask for your money back.
Right.
So when we were talking earlier about gift cards or gift certificates and someone might have wanted a refund, good for the retailer, we said. Perhaps he would take back the item, reload the card so that you'd have to come back to him. What happens with the layaway situation where someone picks up the item or perhaps changes his or her mind midway through the payment stream? Do they get a restocking fee? Do they get additional money out of that? Do you lose your shirt or some part of your shirt?
Again, that's why you want to know what the policy is, because some of the stores do have a restocking fee. So if you do change your mind in the midst of the plan, then they can charge you a restocking fee.
So if
It's not part of the policy, they can't.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. You've got to know that up front. If the store is literally taking an item out of stock and putting it in their back room and holding it for you, then they've lost the opportunity to sell that to someone else. So for them to do that and then you break the agreement to be able to charge a fee that you know about in advance to take it from the back room and put it back on the shelf, it's not only the fee for paying someone the few minutes it takes to take it from the back room and put it on the shelf, but it's the lost opportunity that they may have had.
Good point. And while some will buy gift certificates so that their loved one can take advantages of the after the holiday sales, what happens if you, as a supposedly smart purchaser, decide to take advantage, I don't know if it was a Black Friday sale, and yet it goes on additional sale? You haven't actually taken possession of the product. You haven't exactly paid for the product in its entirety. Do you get dibs on the further discounted item?
You should be able to. Again, let's go back to the policy. What is the store policy? But if the price has been reduced, you're entitled to ask for that reduction in price.
Some stores I've seen advertise actually say, buy it now, don't worry about it. If it goes down
Yeah, we'll
in
do
price,
that.
we'll match it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, some stores, even after you buy it, will give you a certain amount of time
Right.
to return to the store if you find it cheaper at a
Right.
different outlet.
Is that a situation where you should expect that the retailer will automatically just give you that discount, or is that a consumer buyer beware, be on top of it and be
You have
vigilant?
to ask for
Oh,
it.
absolutely. That's a store-by-store policy. You'd want to know what is your policy on this. I've seen these other stores doing it. Will you do that as well?
And what happens if you happen to be late in that payment? Is that a term that would have to be disclosed in advance too, about you have to pay interest if you miss your payment or if you
Again,
did something different?
back to the policy. What is the policy from the store retailer? If you are going to be late, if they're going to charge you a late fee, or I don't know that they can charge you interest, but
Right.
they may be able to charge a late fee.
Can they expect that you will have to pay more for the service? Should you have to pay more for the service of layaway, or should that just be a benefit that goes with your value of doing business with the store? Do they have a right to put an additional fee on?
I don't. I have
the
not
service, for
surveyed every
warehousing?
store layaway policy.
Why
But
would you want the layaway if you're paying for that?
yeah,
paying for
I
the
think the
service?
whole idea is the store's getting the benefit of you're making a purchase from them. You're getting the benefit of having that item guaranteed and put away for you, and there's a win-win. But it's not a win-win if you're paying more for the same item that someone could come in, take, and leave, because you could save the money on your own and
Certainly.
take the chance that it's going to be there.
So while there are consumer protection laws about the gift certificates and the gift cards, I guess because there had been such abuse or problems, are there really any laws about layaway that govern layaways and how
Oh
they
yeah,
should be
Rhode Island
worked?
has a general law about layaways. Every state has one.
Do we need to check those before
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
before we even buy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, again, the policy of the store is paramount. But if the policy of the store doesn't match Rhode Island general laws, you might have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Have you found any particular issues of late about layaways, or is that almost like gift certificates now no longer an issue or no longer a problem?
I
for the
haven't really
consumer?
heard of any issues. I mean, layaways are advantageous to the retailer as well because it keeps the consumer going back to the store.
Right.
So they can go back to the store, make a payment. There's
Maybe
more
buy something
marketing.
else.
Yeah. I haven't really heard of any problems with layaways.
I've not had any clients
Yeah.
call me and say, I have an issue with this store and their layaway policy, and they're not honoring what I expected. So I know it's not a big portion of how consumer spending is done these days, but even for the percentage that it is, none of our clients have contacted us with issues.
No.
And I guess parallel to that, on the gift certificate, parallel to the situation of what happens if there's something that goes on sale, when someone buys a gift certificate or a gift card, do they have the right to assume that the restaurant or the retailer would honor it even if it was on one of their special holidays or one of their special 2-for-1 sales, or doesn't include alcohol if it's a restaurant? Do they get to impose those retroactively after someone's already purchased them?
Oh,
Or do they have to
as
spell
David
that
said
out?
earlier, a gift
Spell it
card
out
is as good as cash.
under any circumstances?
Yeah, it's as good as cash.
And the retailer should treat it as such. If they're selling a product and a big discount on that particular day and you want to take advantage of it, you should be able to use your gift card because they got the cash
Already.
They've been holding, so they've had the advantage of already having the cash, and it's just like cash to them. It comes off their books as cash, so you should be able to use it without limitation.
Understandably. Very recently, I had read of a situation where a restaurateur did not want to honor the gift card for anything other than food, did not want it to include alcohol. I mean, from their perspective, I understand that they have more margin on the alcohol than they do perhaps on the food and food prep, but based on what you're saying, this says that the consumer has the right to have food or alcohol.
If it's a gift card, if it's
One of those Groupons.
Groupon, different story.
Different
They
story.
can make the limitations.
Yeah.
But I would think they'd want to have the limitation more on the alcohol than the food because there's more margin, as you say, in the alcohol.
Explore that?
Well, so if I'm going to make $10 on a drink,
Yes.
and I'm going to get a Groupon so I only get 5, I've still made 5.
Yes.
If I'm only making $5 on my food,
That's a
and
good
you
thought.
get the Groupon for the extra, I get
So you
$10
probably
off,
lost
I've
money.
lost 5.
That's
So
exactly right.
that's a very good rationale. The one that was presented was that if this is only for food, we can safely assume that the dining patrons will then pay additional to
For the
out of pocket
drink,
for the
and so they'll
additional-
make more
they'll
money.
make
on
more
drink.
money.
But now you're assuming that someone is necessarily going to order a drink when they may just
Right.
drink water.
Again, though, you bring up an interesting point that says, watch it if it's on one of those Groupon or a Living
Then they have
Social.
limitations. If it's a gift card and an establishment tries to impose that on the consumer, they've just lost business. So there's a marketing, as you know, there would be a marketing aspect to that whole thing. And I would walk out of the restaurant and not return if that happened to me.
What other issues do we have about layaway? Any that you can think of at the moment?
Layaway gift card or any of those things, it's just the same for
beware.
all of them. Buyer beware and know what the rules are and make sure that before, if you have any questions, you explore the rules and know what you're doing so that there's no surprises at the end.
Very good. We covered so much material about gift cards, gift certificates, layaway. We hope that it's been helpful to you. We thank you for tuning in. We thank Jackie and David from Odette Bazar Cadero Grasso Law Firm in East Providence. Please stay tuned. Our discussion of legal matters will continue, won't it?